All right, good morning. Good morning. It's 2:40. It's about 2:45 a.m. It's a Monday morning. And I just wanted to talk about, we just came from a retreat, a couples retreat, and you always show up, or at least you should show up, whether it's a business meeting, a couples retreat, church, wherever it is that you're showing up to, you should always have an expectation. And the expectation should be, I'm going to take something away from this. And that something, I think, is perceived as, if you go to church for an hour, however long church is, I still don't know that. Go every Sunday. If you're there for an hour, I need to get an hour's worth of information. Or if, this retreat we went on, it was 2.5 days. I need to get 2.5 days of information. Or if we went to a sales meeting on Thursday. Sales meeting was about an hour. I got to get, that's fine. But let's lower the expectation a little bit. Let's say when I go to do this, I'm hoping that I can just take away one thing. Just one good thing. One good thing will help me. If there's one thing that life has taught me, is that God almost never lets you see what the next step is until you move in the direction and take action on the first one. Will he reveal the second one ahead of time? Basically, he's never going to lay out a full map and say, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, this is how it's going to go. Good luck. But almost every single time, he'll work it out in a way that you'll say, how did that happen? See, I say all this to say, when I got into real estate, I started with a particular company. And I started with this company because they sent somebody down to the school I was going to do recruiting. I was like, cool. I liked the person. I thought they were talking to me. I thought what they were saying was good. And I still think the company is great. But it wasn't enough for me to stay. It wasn't enough for me to stay. So I moved on. And the next place I went to, it started talking about building something bigger than just your next commission check. Building your body. Building your relationship with your family. Building your faith. Building your identity, identifying with who you are, be who you are. And if there's something that I've learned, is that nobody can ever beat you when you're being the best possible you that God created. Nobody can beat you. Nobody can compete with the best possible you, because you're almost like a Picasso. You're better than a Picasso. You're better than a Mona Lisa. You're better than a Degas. You're better than a 200-year bottle of a 200-year-old bottle of wine. You're better than that, because there's nothing ever created in the likeness of God better than what he created when he created you. So it got me to thinking, why do people struggle so much? What is it? And it was simple. The struggle was coming as a result of only fixing one aspect of your life and then hoping everything else will fall into place. Hoping. You work on one thing, but yet you hope the rest will fix itself. Like you work on the money and you hope that the money will create a better solution or situation in their family, or you hope that the money will create a better solution because now you can buy liposuction, or now you can buy that personal trainer. And that's a totally different story. But what happened to working on all of it? And I think that's where we fall short, because we think that there's one pill that fixes all things. And it's not true. It's not true. I heard it said a couple days ago. I was listening to a message, and so I asked my son this. I said, what would you much rather have? I said, would you much rather be just doing okay, surrounded by your friends and your family members and loved and having a good time? Or would you prefer to be rich in a mansion that overlooks the whole city with an infinity pool, 50 rooms, every kind of car that you possibly could imagine, fireplaces in every room, but have nobody there to enjoy it with? Completely alone. God, could you imagine that? So fast forward to what I just said. We think that money fixes all problems, but money can't cure loneliness. Money can't cure health problems. So we work on one thing, we think that one thing will fix everything, and then we find ourselves back in a situation of destitute. Maybe not even financial destitute, maybe moral destitute, maybe relationship destitute. Some of us are in such a rush to be in a relationship that we haven't even taken the time to really kind of work and fix ourselves. I think the hardest thing for me to do was to stop asking God to fix everybody around me and start asking God to fix me, to make corrections in me. And then the biggest reflection of 2019 and probably to this point is God will work in mysterious ways that will walk you in directions and lead you down some of the most strangest roads that will open up some of the biggest opportunities. But you have to do one or two things. One is you have to get out of your own way. And two, you have to stop waiting for God to completely unveil the whole secret. It's not going to happen. That's not faith. I'm listening to something by Rick Warren. And he talks about how the Word of God will direct. And listen, I'm number one believer on that. I'm number one believer on that. I'm trying to really fix my life. I don't want just one part of my life to be okay and then everything else is haywire. I want every aspect of my life that means something to me to come together. I want to identify on paper what means something to me, what's important to me, and then I want to work on it. I want to work on being the best I can at it. If it's my body, if it's my friendships, if it's my relationship, if it's my marriage, if it's my finances, if it's my relationship with God, if it's something that's of importance to me, I want to work on becoming better at it. But I can't ask for other people to be better when I'm sitting there still stagnant the same way. Hey, I want a woman with a great body, but yet I don't take care of mine. Hey, I want a woman who can financially handle things, but yet I can't financially show up to do it myself. Hey, I want a man who knows how to love me, but I don't know how to love myself. Like, kind of like, get it. And most of these people are in and out of relationships because they don't even know how to love themselves. If you don't know how to love yourself, how can you know what to look for when you're trying to look for somebody to love you? It's impossible. Have you ever just sat down and said, this is what I need? I need somebody who touches me. I need somebody who talks to me a certain kind of way. Like, this is what attracts me. This is what makes me say, oh, I'm in love. Because love will not have you sleeping together. Love will have you trying to grow together. And trust me when I tell you this, there wasn't ever a part of my life where I was like, let's grow instead of have sex. Now I was like, let's have sex with everything moving. But at which point do you start growing up and maturing? At which point do you stop trying to do the same thing, hoping to get different results? The definition of insanity. I feel uncomfortable when I go to church. That's good. I feel uncomfortable when I go to our sales meetings. That's good. I felt uncomfortable when I went to this retreat. That's good. Because it wouldn't be right if there wasn't a level of uncomfortableness. I felt uncomfortable. That's what makes you grow. I wasn't talking like this a few years ago. I wasn't acting like this a few years ago. But I've done some things that made me uncomfortable. And when I became uncomfortable, I started growing. I didn't know that I was just supposed to show up to the event to get a nugget. But had I not showed up, I wouldn't have even got the nugget. I sat there for an hour just to get 2 seconds worth of information that benefited me a lifetime. But guess what? You know, this the best saying was a Michael Jordan saying, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. You got to start taking some shots, but you got to start understanding. Me and Malachi had to talk about how you have to start identifying what you want. Because if you don't identify what you want, you start just getting anything. And when you're caught in the midst of the emotions and the feelings, and you think it's love, and then you find out the person was really crazy because you didn't know what you were looking for in the first place, so you end up in this twist, and you keep ending up in this twist because you never sat down in between relationships to identify who and what you wanted. See, I have a saying in my business that when I'm not doing business, I'm working on my business. And when I'm doing business, I'm not working on my business. So when I have downtime, I start working on my systems and processes so that when my business starts cranking back up, then I have systems and processes in place that can take over from where I am at. I don't just sit there and do nothing and start crying about why there's no business. I start working on my business so that when business comes in, I have systems in place. You have a choice on whether or not you're going to work on one thing or you're going to identify everything that's important to you and you're going to start working on all these things, or you're going to keep hoping that somebody else or something else can come into your life and fix it, or you're going to take some of that power back and you're going to say that I am in charge of my life. I accept what I accept, and I identify with what I need to make me the best possible me that I can be. Period.